According to Japanese standards, I'm still poor here. You know what I mean? Yes, hey family, I'm poor in Japan, please. I am poor here. I'm gonna clip this, man. Don't ask me for money, mom. I love you, but I'm poor.
Oh,
So
man.
yeah, you have to find a balance, and that's a struggle sometimes. But
Yeah.
you have to prioritize yourself, because if you don't, you can't give what you don't have.
Welcome to Vulnerability Muscle, the empowering podcast challenging norms and guiding you to find strength and power through vulnerability. I'm your host, Reggie D. Ford. In a world that often portrays vulnerability as a sign of weakness, I believe it is a source of tremendous strength and authenticity. Through insightful conversations and thought provoking interviews, Vulnerability Muscle aims to redefine vulnerability and help listeners develop a new perspective on their own lives. Each episode of Vulnerability Muscle delves into a variety of topics such as mental health, social issues, and mindset shifts. We explore the power of vulnerability in healing, building resilience, and promoting personal growth, as well as fostering meaningful connections. This podcast provides practical tools and strategies to navigate life's challenges, overcome adversity, and create more inclusive and just environments for all people. Let's kick it off. Evans, it's so good to see you, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. In Japan, we say arigato gozaimasu. So I'll give you an arigato gozaimasu.
I can't spell that, but I accept that. What does that mean?
It just means thank you. Arigato. Very
Arigato.
Yes, arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much. Or I can say asante sana in Swahili.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So Japanese and Swahili. Well,
Yes.
tell the people where you're from and where you are and what you're doing where you are.
Yeah, my name is Evans, born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. Educated in Kenya, lived in Africa all my life, Kenya, Uganda, and maybe around East Africa. And then 11 years ago now, I moved to Japan to do my second bachelor's. And now I've been living in Japan for the last 11 years. I work here, but I also do stand-up. I do English stand-up comedy. I've been doing that for almost 12 years now. I've
Wow.
performed in around 13 countries. And yeah, it's just something that I I can't stop even if I want to. So it's just something I enjoy doing.
Oh man, that's what's up right there. That's what's up. So stand up, that's one of the hardest things I think anybody can do. That's overcoming so many fears of being exposed and being out in public and thinking so fast on your feet and all of that. Like you got to deal with a lot as a stand up, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I know what podcast is this now. I think it's right for me to say being a stand-up comedian is the highest form of being vulnerable,
Mm,
because
that's true.
you really stand in front of people. Even if you don't open up about yourself, you just being in front of people is it's already a position of people. Some people view it as a position of power, of which it is, but it's also a position of vulnerability. So
Mm, that's
I'm
true.
yeah, I'm happy that I'm able to share my journey on your amazing podcast. I've been watching and listening, and
I
I wanna
appreciate you.
commend you for the great work that you're doing out there, Reggie.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Evans. That means a lot. And it's something to what you said about like when you stand up on a stage in front of people, it feels like you have this power, this and even it's perceived that way by the audience. And I thought about this when I because I'm a yoga instructor.
Oh
And
wow.
I will get up there and I'll tell students like you don't have to listen to anything I say. Like really all I really care about is if you breathe. But
Mhm.
I'll throw out all kind of different poses and different things to do. And sometimes I'm just like, if I told these people to touch their nose and bite their ears, like they would try to do it. And like it's just because of the position that I'm in standing in front of all
Yes,
these people. And I
absolutely.
think like being up there as a comic, I'm sure like you command a room. So
Yes.
no, it's amazing. All right. I got some rapid response questions to kind of
Okay.
warm you up a little bit. And just the
Let's
first thing
go.
that comes to mind. Let's get it. What is the first thing you do to no, no, no. What is one thing you do to relax when you're feeling stressed?
Long walks.
Walks. Yes. Yes. When What comes to mind when you hear the word vulnerability?
Hmm. For me, it's actually fear because am I supposed to expound on these questions
You
or are they?
can. I like when people expand, so yeah, feel free.
Okay. Yeah, for me, it's growing up where I grew up and how I grew up. We are not allowed to be vulnerable. We were not allowed to. So being vulnerable is people are scared to be because it's a sign of weakness actually as a man. And also, of people say life in Africa is tough. It's not everywhere in Africa. And we have people who have great backgrounds in Kenya. I have so many friends who are super rich, but I wasn't that. I was born and raised in a place called Kibera, which is the largest slum in East Africa. I think the second largest in the world, actually. In Africa is the largest, so bigger than Soweto, South Africa, and all that. So like the environment around you did not have time for you to be vulnerable, to listen to your emotions, to listen to your concerns, even questions. So you just had to toughen up because everybody around you was tough and you had to survive. So being vulnerable, it's something that never crossed my mind growing up because I was scared that people will see me as a coward or weak just because of being vulnerable. Yes.
Definitely. And if any of that fear comes up during this conversation, if there's anything that you don't feel comfortable talking about or sharing or any of that, feel free to let me know. Feel free to just not. And I will respect that. And I hope to build a safe space to where you feel comfortable being vulnerable and that there's no fear there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What is one of your favorite childhood memories, Evans?
One of my favorite childhood memories is me going to a place called Yaya Center. It's a mall. It's one of the oldest malls in Nairobi. And we live in this huge slum area called Kibera, and Yaya Center is just 30 minutes away from Kibera walking. And we never used to go there because we felt like we don't belong there. But for Christmas, we felt like we had a chance because we had Christmas clothes on, and we had our swag on, you know what I mean? So we felt like we will fit in. So we always used to go to Yaya Center just to ride the escalators on Christmas. That was
That's what's up. That's what's
yeah,
up. I'm
yeah,
breaking the rapper response real quick because I just saw you posted something about Christmas in Japan, and you were
yeah.
like, if you're in Japan during Christmas, what was your recommendation to people?
Yeah, the best way to celebrate Christmas in Japan is to leave.
Why is that?
Being like I was born and raised in a Christian environment with a lot of family and friends around. So Christmas was very festive. But in Japan, Christmas it also has a different meaning. Christmas here is like a second Valentine's. It's the special day for the Japanese to like to take your loved one out, your spouse, your girlfriend, or whatever. But you have to buy KFC. It's like
I've heard
yes,
this.
yeah, it's crazy. I thought it was a joke when I was doing my research about coming to Japan, but now 11 years here, I'm like, yes, like on Christmas Day, KFC is usually sold out because like years ago they did this very, very good advertisement marketing PR for Christmas and it just stuck. So
Wow,
yes, so that
wow.
but I say you leave because first of all, there is no back home is very festive and there are parties, and if you're a church guy there are many festivals like Christmas is very Japan is if it's on Monday you're gonna go to office, there's no day off.
Oh wow.
It's just a normal day. It's a 9 to 5 day if you're a 9 to 5 guy.
Oh
And
my
it's
god.
cold and it's very it's I think that's one of the time where most foreigners kind of get depressed because we are used to spending Christmas with our families or friends, or even if we don't have people who are close to us, just the environment we are in back home,
Mm-hmm.
it's very festive and very lively. But Tokyo is just the same 9 to 5 routine. So I feel like it's very depressing. And that's why the best thing to do is maybe have some KFC at the airport as you're leaving. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay, so get out of Japan during
Get
Christmas.
out for Christmas, man. I try and leave. Like, and that's the funny thing. Once you travel to any other country, even around Asia, like the Philippines, you feel that the Christmas spirit, because also like in Southeast Asian countries are very warm. They remind me of Africa. I tell this joke on stage that, I do a lot of crowd work and I talk to my crowd, and I always ask people where they're from. And if they are from any Southeast Asian countries, let's say the Philippines, I'm like, wow, I love the Philippines because it reminds me of home. I remember when I arrived in Manila, and at the airport, there were like 12 counters, only one was working. I've arrived home, and then I take my Uber to my hotel, and I lost my phone and my wallet before arriving at the hotel. And I'm like, yes, this is Nairobi. You know what I mean?
You feel home.
In home, yes. So they have that warmth that Japan doesn't really have. You know what I mean?
Oh, that is hilarious. I like that. I like that a lot. Oh man, that's good.
Mm.
If you could have a conversation with anyone living or dead, who would it be and why?
I'll have a conversation with Richard Pryor.
Yes.
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 Because
You
yes, he just, apart from his stand-up, I was reading his autobiography, and he went through stuff. He went through a difficult lifestyle with the lifestyle of his mother and all that, and like having to go through all that and emerging what like he made himself to be, it is something that I really respect. Plus, I think is the funniest man who has ever walked on earth. Just my opinion. We have, even in comedy, you have people with diverse opinions. So I think Richard Pryor and then Dave Chappelle. I like
yeah.
his courage, and once he believes in something, he's not scared.
Mhm.
Sometimes I want to say some things, but I have this little bit of fear in me. So I
Mhm.
just I just wish I had more courage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So Dave and Richard Pryor.
that's amazing. I think you picked out two fantastic humans that are, I mean, just push the envelope a lot. Like
Yes,
Richard
yes.
Pryor doing the jokes that he was doing back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
where we probably couldn't do them today.
Yeah,
Dave Chappelle
absolutely.
probably couldn't even, but he was definitely a game changer in every regard. And then I saw Dave Chappelle last
Oh,
year. I want to say, yeah, I saw Dave Chappelle as he was preparing, him and Chris Rock as they were preparing for
yes.
their Netflix specials, and
Wow.
it was one of the best comedy shows I've ever experienced in my life. It was so
Wow.
fantastic to see those two pros and what they do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so much courage with Dave. Dave
Yes.
came to Dave came to Africa. Do you know? Do you follow much of that story when
Yes,
he left
absolutely.
the states?
Yes, he is my idol. When he refused the 50 million or whatever, and
Yeah.
just moved to Africa. You see, for me, Dev is not just whatever he's saying, but what he's doing. You see,
Mhm.
that's leading by example, leading by action, not just saying this and doing the opposite, as many people do, not just comedians. So for me, his courage and his belief, but I also like the fact that he is very smart. Like,
Mhm.
he's a very smart guy, and he reads a lot, and his vocabulary is very high that translates into his writing. Like he can tell the same joke that 100 other comedians have told, but his wording, the way he says it, it's insane. Dave has like shows out where he doesn't really do stand-up. He just sits and talks to
And
people.
talk. Yeah.
Yes, and people listen, and it's just intriguing, man. Like, yeah, I think he's a superhuman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Now,
Yeah.
I knowing where he went, I think he went to South Africa when he came to Africa, right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that where he went was probably totally different from where you grew up. Can you
Absolutely.
explain is it Kibera?
Yes.
Can you explain what Kibera was like and the things that you experienced and witnessed growing up?
So Kibera is this settlement. We call it Chocolate City because if you Google Kibera, the overview of the slum is actually corroded rooftops. It's brown because of the iron sheet. So because of the rain and all that and sun and everything, it looks really, really brown. So we call it Chocolate City, and also another nickname for Kibera is number 8, because like when you're in your downtown Nairobi and you want to go to Kibera, you use buses that are number 8. So it's called
Okay.
number 8 or Chocolate City. I honestly speaking, growing up, I didn't think I had a difficult childhood
Mm-hmm.
at first because everyone around me was struggling, like I didn't know going 2 3 days without food is a struggle because it's normal. We didn't get it today. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, until you grow up and interact with different types of people and you start understanding, oh wow, how did I even survive that? Because yeah, it was difficult. My dad, sorry, I have 5 siblings. I have now 4. My sister passed on last year.
I'm sorry to hear
So
that.
no worries, man. Thanks. So I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Now 1 sister and 2 brothers and me. And we grew up in one small house. Small. Speaking of houses in Kibera, it's just rooms divided by curtains
Mm.
because yeah, they are mud huts. The house is made of mud and sticks and some stones. Then the roof is made of iron sheets, and then the rooms are subdivided by curtains. So like the bedroom is, you just flip the curtain and you're from the bedroom to the sitting room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's basically the same room, and that's one of the reasons some NGOs were saying that a lot of teen pregnancies in Kibera, because if your dad and moms are getting down, you just hear everything. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
a, you know.
Right.
So, sometime your dad might kick that curtain while changing the style, and you see them like it was freaking normal, like
Right.
you have to pretend you're sleeping. Like it was just how we grew up. And in the morning, maybe you're young, you're like, hey, mom, why were you fighting yesterday? Like, you don't really understand what was going on. So
Mm.
that is the environment you grew in, the kitchen,
Mm.
the sitting room and the bedroom and everything. I used to put some mats down and sleep down. My sister used to sleep on, we had one metal couch. And then, of course, my dad and my mom on the bed. And then me and my other 2 brothers and 1 sister, we used to share the same area in the middle of that small room. We move the table on the side and just put everything down we can. And that's how we used to sleep. When it comes to showering, you gotta shower at night outside because
Mm.
there's no bathroom or shower or something like that. Toilets were also a problem, and that's why, like, even now, if you Google flying toilets of Kibera, it's very, very popular because not
Flying
every yeah,
toilets.
flying toilets. Like
Okay.
not everybody had a pit latrine, and those who had, they closed it with a lock because they were sharing like maybe 20 families, one toilet, and so not everybody had access to that. And some people used like plastic bags, so you just do it in a plastic bag and you tie it and you throw it wherever it's gonna land. That's
Mhm.
it. Like
Yeah.
that's why we call them flying toilets.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah. It's
that's
not.
one.
It's not what you want to be flying around, but it's something
Not at
fun.
all, not at all, man.
So I think from an American perspective, and I've never been to Africa, but I hope to get to actually Ghana later this year.
Oh,
And
great.
so I'll be my first time ever in Africa. But I think there is a very large ignorance and misconception about Africa that may closely align to what you just described about Kibera, right?
Mhm.
Can would you say the same would be true about Nairobi or any large city that you've been exposed to in Africa?
I'm glad you asked that question because what I described it is what 99% of people think Africa is. That is not true. because that is just one, no, that's one part of Nairobi. Of course, we have slums and lesser developed areas in other parts of Nairobi, but this is the largest. But the majority of Nairobi is highly developed. It is very rich. I went back to Kenya for Christmas and I was like, dang, Nairobi is becoming more expensive than Tokyo. Like, it's insane.
Wow.
Like, we have, of course, Kenya in East and Central Africa, Nairobi, Kenya is the most developed city. We have all the headquarters for all international organizations. Our internet is the fastest. Our GDP is very high. We have expressways. We have an amazing airport. We are the only country in the world with a national park in the city.
Wow.
Like if you go to South Africa, if you want to see the big five, which is like the elephant, giraffe, cheetah, hippo, and I think lions, you have to drive like 1 hour away to the national park. But in Kenya, once you leave the airport, you literally driving through the national park. Like,
That's amazing. Wow.
yeah. So you don't have to go to Masai Mara, which is like the largest. We have the Nairobi National Park, and it has all these animals. You can wake up 5 in the morning and go to a safari drive and see all the animals you guys see on Lion King.
Oh my God. I'm glad you brought up Lion King, because
Yeah.
this is something that I've been thinking about recently, and I haven't said it publicly at all, but I want to say it now. And I'm glad you said that. So when there's a story that
Mm,
is considered, I don't know, like for me, a hood story or a struggle story or anything like that, if
mm,
the dominant characters in that story are black, it's okay to show them as black people going through that story. But
mm,
if you take the same story, Lion King, um, any Disney story where there is struggle with animals, and it's perceived as a white voice, a white character, a white whatever behind it, it's an
mm,
animal, not an actual white person. And I just
mm,
like wanted to say that out loud because I think subconsciously we get so ingrained in these stories of dad gets killed by uncle who's a fucking crazy ass, like all of this shit. Like that's Simba's story. And
yeah,
if you put it in the hood, they let the little black kid portray that story.
yeah.
And so now I just that's something that's been on my heart. I ain't even thought it through all the way, but I just wanted to say that because you brought up Lion King.
No, yeah, that's true. And it speaks volumes on how Hollywood views black people, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it is just that I I think it is something because if for example if you see a slave movie or a black people suffering movie and you have a face to associate with, and then you see a white people suffering movie and there is no really face, it's just a character or an animal, it
Yeah.
kind of it kind of makes I don't know, it's you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't want to be canceled, I am still trying to
No, it's
come.
okay. Hey, if you get canceled on this, then this might go viral. So get canceled. Shit, hell yeah. Evans is getting canceled all over the world. We're making that happen right now. He's gonna
Anyway,
blow up.
I just think, representation is still an issue in Hollywood and in all
Definitely.
these dramas and all that. But yeah, so yeah, Kenya is big, and I know places that are like even the rich Americans come and they're like, "What the fuck? What is this, man? I can't afford this, man. I gotta get the heck out of here." You know what I mean? We have schools. We have schools in Kenya where during recess kids are picked by choppers.
Mm.
Helicopters come to pick, like they drop kids in the morning and come pick them in the evening to go home.
Wow.
That's how, like, that's the level of richness we have in Kenya.
Wow. Wow.
I have people, like, now I live in Tokyo, and this one I've come to see more and more. I meet a lot of Kenyans coming to Japan just for vacation.
Mhm.
Like, these are people who have traveled the world. These are people who they've never even heard of Kibera. I tell them I'm from Kibera. What is that like? And
Wow.
they're Kenyans because their lifestyle is totally different. Like,
Yeah.
we have Kenyans who actually don't even know who the Kenyan president is because they are not even part of, part of the local scene.
Yeah. They're
Like
living
their
their
life
own
is
lives.
totally different. Yeah. We have Kenyans who bring in Chris Brown for birthday, 7-year-old birthday party for Chris Brown to sing, yeah, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
crazy.
like we have that level too that people don't really know or people don't talk about, because I think when you say it's Africa, poor and flying toilets and Kibera, it suits their narrative, you know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have
How,
all these sides, man.
going back to you saying, growing up the way that you did, you never looked at it as bad. Like it was just okay. I didn't eat for a couple of days. That's normal. Do you feel was there ever any jealousy or exposure to those families when you were growing up in Kibera?
And this is what happened. I grew up in that environment until I finished elementary, we call it primary school, which is same as elementary school. And then I went to, once I started going to high school, I changed my church. I was a church boy. I used to go to church. So I started going to a church outside Kibera. And that was the first time I was like, what?
Mm,
Because first of all, just growing up in Kibera, you felt like you were not allowed even to go to those churches. It's a freaking church, but even going there, you felt like, am I supposed to be here?
yeah.
But yeah, courage, just let me just go. I love their worship was like a concert, So for me, every Sunday was like a free concert compared to churches in Kibera where the struggle was real, like, it was, so that was different, a different setup, and it kind of opened up my eyes, and I started mingling with all these people who are rich, people who are driving to church. I've never, like
Mm,
my family, we've never owned a car. Like, even if you own a car, where will you park it in Kibera? Like, there's nothing like car parking. Like this, it's not something you think about, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So going to this church, I met all these people and I became friends with them. And we started having, like, sleepovers and Bible studies in these different houses and homes and all that. And I walk into these rich homes now. I'm like, what the fuck is this? You mean like you you want to tell me you can eat food and not finish? And
Yeah.
not, and not just finish. You can choose either to throw it
Throw
away.
it away.
You can put it in that box and it will be cool all night. And then
Mm,
from that box, you can pull it from that box you guys call the fridge,
mm,
and then pull it into this TV looking like box you guys call the microwave.
mm.
And then it will warm the food up. Like, what
Yeah.
magic is this?
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
being in that environment, I really started thinking about what I can do to live that life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, I gotta get the heck out of Kibera. That, yeah, I've been suffering, like,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. It was at that point that you made that realization that what you had gone through was suffering.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Because once you are around that different environment, you start seeing things different. You're like, oh man, this guy got a dad and a mom, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have a dad that drops you. What do you mean? Like,
Mm.
for me, everything was fascinating. You have
Yeah.
shoes, you have shoes for school, you have sport shoes just for going, just shoes for jogging alone.
Yeah.
Who are you, man? Are you a freaking drug dealer, man? Yeah, like,
Is
you
that
have,
prevalent? Is that
yeah,
prevalent drug dealing?
yeah, it's huge, especially in Kibera and those. But now, like, even the high now, a lot of people in Kenya are rich, but their source of income is very questionable. So.
Mm.
And in
Mm-hmm.
recent years, like, cocaine, heroin, and all these other drugs are a problem in Kenya. So drug dealing is huge, and it's feeding a lot of families. That's all I can
Mm-hmm.
say.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it's a means. It's a means. I got
You
a
go,
question
sorry,
because
you call it running the block? Is that it?
running the block, I don't
Yes.
call it nothing. I don't do nothing. No, I don't call
Ah,
it
okay, okay.
nothing.
Not you, but your people. Reggie, I'm
some,
here
some
to learn. I'm here to learn, Reggie.
some people might be running the block. Some people uh yeah, moving weight.
Nah, I'm
Uh
moving late. Okay.
yeah, trapping. I think trapping is one
Yeah, okay, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
Oh,
I don't know nothing about that.
mm.
Um I got a question because I'm like I said, I'm going to Ghana, and
Mhm,
I was skeptical or not skeptical. I was reluctant to go with the group that I'm going with because I went to a private high school,
mm,
and there were a lot of mission trips done from this private, majority white high school, going to different places around the world, serving in some form of fashion. Sometimes connected to religious means, or sometimes not. But I'm going in conjunction with a group from my high school, and I always go to the point of the local. Like, does this local want me to be there in the first place? What is
mm,
your, I guess, feeling toward mission trips and people coming with this saviorism complex or whatever it may be? How do you feel about that when, coming from Kibera?
mm. Yeah, first of all, that question is very deep to me because we are here talking about like knowing each other and on this podcast just because of a mission trip that happened to Kenya more than 25 years ago, I guess. Almost 25, 26 years ago. So I have mixed feelings on that
Mhm.
because growing in Kibera, the school I went to, it was just this church building that was converted into a school. Again, they just put dividers. They just put dividers and they call it a school that was formed by missionaries. And we used to go there just for the food because in Kibera, there's no food. We just hang out and try. Of course, I used to not, yeah, I used to sell weed to people as a kid. I used just to move weed from one place to another, from a dealer to a client or whatever. And then that's how I used to kind of get food. And this church started a feeding program for all the kids in the slum. So the rule was for you to go there and study the Bible, do Bible study from morning to lunchtime, and then have lunch, and then you can go play sports or whatever you want in the afternoon. And then that's how it developed into a school.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to be honest, if it wasn't for the missionaries who came and formed this church, and that's how I started going to school, and they sponsored me until I finished university, basically, I think I wouldn't make it. But also, there's a lot of harm that has been done by such organizations. And uh, because most people come thinking that they know what we want or what the local people want instead of going to listen. I think the most important thing is to listen instead of you just coming there and buying all the kids Yeezys, you know. That's actually what Kanye did in Uganda. He gave
Wow.
yeah, everybody. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But what am I gonna have for dinner?
Right.
But what will happen once you've come here, you spent 10 days, we've formed a bond, we've formed a relationship, and then you've taken a beautiful photo and posted on Instagram and gotten good likes. What happens next week when you're not here, Reggie?
Mm, man. Yeah.
You know? So I think the most important thing is going is not bad. Please go. Especially Ghana is amazing. I performed there last year in August. No, the year before that, I did a show in Accra in August. Great people, great
Nice.
food, great weather. I like Ghana. I love Ghana. I want to go back again. But are we building, are we going to build systems that are self-sustainable?
Mhm.
Are we going to build systems that will really change these lives, or are we just gonna be there for 10 days and that's it?
Mhm.
And you will probably visit like orphanages and children's homes and all that. And you'll go there and you'll form bonds with these kids. And you are not the first group to go there and form bonds, but you'll not be the last to. They see people like when we were in Kibera, we used to have missionaries who used to come, some for 2 weeks, some for 3 months, some for six. And you come meet these people, you form a relationship, a bond, and then you leave. When they leave, you're heartbroken, and then
Mhm.
another group comes, and then you start forming that bond, and then you leave, and then you're
Oh,
heartbroken. It's
yes.
like
That's like heartbreak after heartbreak. That's oh man.
absolutely, and that's why, like, even in Japan here, I've been here for a long time, but I've never been to the cat cafe or the owl cafe. It's like that's how I felt. That's how most children feel actually back home, because they're like, these people are just here to us and to make us feel good for 1 2 hours. They pay and then they leave.
Mm,
But are we trying to really change lives? Are we
hmm.
trying keep the relationship going on? And that's I think the most important thing, coming up with systems that really work long term, whether you are there or not. Or
I think
even
that's
if it's
important.
not coming up with system, forming like meaningful relationships that will last for a long time. Like, shout out to Adrian for making this happen. She's one of the ladies who came through the mission organization, and we used to hang out every evening after school, every weekend. Like, I knew her for a very long time, and she left, and we didn't even have Facebook or Instagram that time, and she gave me her email,
Wow.
and we used to email for almost 10 15 years,
Wow.
just communicating by email. And then she came again to see me in
That's
Africa.
what's
She
up.
traveled. Yes, she came, she saw me, we hung out, we had a good time, and then she left again. But the communication was there until we I think she went through some difficult time. Me too, life just happened, and we kind of lost touch for like 5 years. And then one random day I saw a suggestion on Instagram, do you know this person? And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was her, you know.
Wow.
And then we reconnected like now maybe 4 5 years ago, and nothing
That's
changed. And
amazing.
it
Yeah.
was really emotional because she was looking for me everywhere. She couldn't find me.
Dang.
And I told her, you should have just Googled the best black comedian in Japan.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm gonna name the title of this. This is the best black comedian in Japan. Boom. That's it.
Yes.
That's what we're calling it. Oh man. That
Yeah,
is
so
beautiful.
exactly. So you see, me and her, it's a lifetime relationship now. It's more than 20 years. I've known
Wow.
her, and she's one of the very few people like I can feel vulnerable enough to open up to my struggles and whatever I'm going through. And we share that bond. And yeah, she's just my human, and I really appreciate her. And for that reason, I will tell you, please go to Ghana. You might be an Adrian to someone else. You know what I
Dang.
mean? You might
That's
form
powerful.
a long-term, meaningful relationship.
That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing that beautiful story. It's heartwarming to know that like you build true connection even through just email for so long. Like that
Yes,
there's no excuse for people not to be building genuine connections with people because
absolutely.
like y'all are proof of that. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much.
Can you talk about what it was like, how you got to Japan and what that transition was like for you?
Okay, so my story with Japan is something I really sometimes I wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm in Tokyo. Like, I live in Tokyo. This is insane. Like, I still can't believe it. Like, yesterday, I was just funny enough. Yesterday, I actually thought this podcast was going to happen yesterday. So I woke up very early in the morning yesterday.
Oh my
And
bad.
I'm like, oh, shoot, it's my Sunday. It's your Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just took a shower. I'm like, oh, well, I think it's a good day to see the city again. I like walking. I love walking. Walking is one of the things I do a lot. And so I was just thinking, oh, I'm in Japan. How did this happen?
Mm,
So I finished high school. Adrian comes with this other team of experts like doctors, lawyers, architects. She brings them to Kenya. I'm working as a messenger, as an office messenger, and she calls me. She's like, "Hey, I'm in town. I told you I'll be here. I thought it was a joke." We go have dinner with her, and she's like, "Yeah, this you said you wanna go to college. This table is filled with people who are super rich, and they have heard part of your story, and they're really interested in hearing the rest."
mm.
So I share my story with them, not expecting anything really. I'm just doing it also because Adrian told me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I finish, and then one guy is like, wow, I'm touched by your story. I'm gonna give you 1 semester scholarship to university of your choice. I'm like, whoa,
Wow.
am I dreaming or what? Like,
Wow.
and then that's how it happened. I go to university in Uganda. I fly to Uganda, not fly. I take a bus to Uganda. Of course, I get money for flight, but flying is like $100. A bus is $25.
Yeah. Yeah.
That really my mom sorted for like 2 months when I'm away. You know what I mean? So I go to Uganda, I study there. The semester ends, and then the guy is like, okay, you are waiting for your results. If your results are okay, I'm gonna pay the next semester.
Mm.
Like, oh, okay, so that's the only requirement. I just have to perform in school, and I just killed it throughout. Like, I'm not the smartest, but I'm
Yeah. You
I'm
got
smart.
you pretty smart though. I can tell you got it together.
Yeah, I speak 7 languages, Reggie. Don't play with me.
Go ahead. Give me all of them right now. Let's go.
I speak English, of course. I speak Japanese. I speak Swahili. I speak Luganda because I went to Uganda for uni. In Kenya, we have different languages and tribes and different languages. I speak Luya, which is my native language, born with. I speak Luo. Luo is Obama's dad language.
Right.
Obama was Luo. Obama's dad was Luo. And then I speak a little bit of Kamba. That's
Mm.
actually it. Kamba is another language. And then I studied French for 6 months, but I don't speak any, so I won't count French.
Okay, man, that's amazing. I speak
Yeah.
English
Yeah. You speak English. That's
and I
enough.
speak English. No, I'm kidding.
They
I
speak,
speak a little bit of French and a little bit of Spanish as well.
okay, that's good.
Yeah.
They speak English in Ghana, so you'll be fine, Reggie.
Okay. I'll be
Yeah.
good. I'll be good. I'll be good. That
Yeah.
your story, and I want to hear more about kind of the story that you told that group of sponsors because it was compelling enough for them to, want to advocate for you and going to school.
Mhm.
But your story I mean, it's very similar in a way to my story.
Mm,
Two different places, right? Grew up
mhm.
in inner city, impoverished parts of the United States, here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I through a program called Backfield in Motion. It's a nonprofit organization that
Okay.
was the introduction to organized sports for me, organized football.
Mm,
And I got to play for this organization, but attached to that was the requirement of getting going to tutoring and getting academic support and all of that.
mhm.
And in that, I was already a really good student. I was advanced in all the work that I was doing. And so the
Mm,
group of people who started and volunteered for this organization identified me and gave me the opportunity to go to a private school, the private school I was mentioning.
mhm.
And I think like the part that really sticks out for me was at the end of my 8th grade year, which was the first year I went there. I was so over being in that environment, being away from all my friends, and I was like, my excuse to not come back was like, we can't afford this. And
Mm,
I remember getting sat down by a bunch of different people from, in the school, outside of the school, friends, families, and I don't know exactly who said this or how many people said this, but it was told to me, it was like, if you come back, you'll never have to pay another dime to go to this school again. And this
wow.
school, and I'm telling you, like today is probably $35,000 a year to go there. And so,
Whoa.
I'm like 15 years removed from school now, but like still very expensive. And I
Hmm.
got that for free.
That's
And just to see the trajectory that has done for me in my life like that, I'm so appreciative of that. I want to
wow.
ask one more of the backstory and how does your story differ from everyone else in Kibera who didn't get that opportunity to sit down at that table?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Before I get to that, let me just finish my journey, how I got to
Okay.
Tokyo. So I go to Uganda and do 4 years there, go back to Kenya, volunteer for the same organization that sponsored me to school. And I had a friend who came to Japan to study, and he just sent me a link, and I applied for my second bachelor's. and they accepted me, and I came. That's how I ended up in Tokyo. But not not a lot of my peers made it this far, as I may say, because as you know, as I've shared before, my my background was really difficult, and a lot of my friends are either dead or in jail because they chose different ways to make a living, and I was almost going that way, but I had a very, very strict elder brother actually, and my late sister who just died. They used to beat the shit out of me just to put me in line. I was a little bit stubborn because I was playing soccer, and in the entire soccer team, everybody was 90% of the people were thieves, to be honest. They were dealing drugs. They were not just weed, but real drugs. And I think my mom and my sister forcing me to go to church kind of helped me, because that's how I moved from the church in Kibera to the one outside Kibera. And through that, I discovered that actually you can make it in life, or you can make something out of yourself in other ways that we were not exposed growing up. We just thought if you are a guy by the age of 16, you should be doing drugs or dealing drugs. And if you're a girl by the 15, 16, you should be a mother or something. And so it's so unfortunate, because most of my friends took that route, and they are normal, and the few ones that are alive, some are doing well, to be honest. But again, the chances of making it from Kibera, it's almost zero. Like in Kenya, you go anywhere out, like you meet anybody, and you'll be having a conversation with them the way I'm having a conversation with you, and they'll be treating you like a normal person. And then once you say, by the way, I'm from Kibera, everything changes. The demeanor, the way they treat you, the way they start clutching their purses.
Wow.
It's like being in the US with a mask on an elevator with a white woman, and then when you open the mask and they're like, oh, he's a fucking black. They clutch their purses. You know what I mean? I know you are an N-word,
Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing with us. Like, we are feared. We are feared because to be honest, we kind of deserve being feared, because again, we have the reputation. We Kibera is surrounded by stadiums and places where like festivals happen and all that. And so most people from Kibera go to these events and everything just to snatch phones, and you just snatch the phone and just run in Kibera, because once you cross the road into Kibera, you don't even run anymore, because anybody following you into Kibera, they know they won't come out alive. Like,
Wow.
that's how bad it is. Like, I'll send you some photos. We have Kibera, and then one side is Kibera, the other side is, like, you'll see it's all brown corroded iron sheet, and on the other side you'll see green lush golf course. Like, it's very, very beautiful and for super rich people. That's one side of Kibera. The other side, we have a huge event space called the Uhuru Gardens, which we have like all the big international musicians come to do festivals there. We have a soccer stadium nearby. Like, all around Kibera, we are surrounded by these big venues for events and conferences and all that. And so those are places most of my friends and me too, we used to go to just hang out and time, those people from other neighborhoods, rich neighborhoods, and see what we can get from them. So
Wow.
once you get a purse or a wallet, your number one aim is just to cross the main road.
Wow.
Because once you cross the road, it's a different story, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's different
Yes.
territory.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's one thing that I really had to learn to do, even before coming to Japan. Just by living the Kibera environment, I had to learn to kind of hold myself back and start letting some things go and learning to be in a different space in even my mindset.
Mhm.
Like, can you imagine moving from that environment and now coming to Japan? This is
Wow.
the
Wow.
safest place on the planet. There is no danger here, like, but you sometimes you run into those confrontation confrontational situations, but you have to know that you've come a very long way, and you can lose everything just by reacting.
Mm.
So for me nowadays, my defense mechanism is to walk away. Like
Mhm.
I walked away from situations that if someone was recording me and show my boys back in Kibera, they'll be like, what a
They'll
fucking kid.
clown you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. But I have to do that because you realize that life is more than that,
Yeah.
it's more than just being tough,
Yes.
being this and that. You have to be vulnerable at times, actually. You have to open up, you have to soften up, and there is nothing wrong with that. And so, yeah, I think it has been a very, very, very huge adjustment for me.
Mhm.
And now I've been here for 10 years, and now the opposite is happening. Because when I go back home, I really struggle, like
Yeah.
even getting from the airport to my Airbnb or hotel or whatever. It's like, wow, I need to act like, yo, I'm from here. I know everything.
Right.
But it kind of shows, yo, man, you're not from here, man. You've been away for so long or
You've been
something.
away. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough. Do you ever feel any guilt surrounding that? Like knowing the life that you live now compared to the family that you have back in Kibera?
I used to, but I I I feel a little bit now, not as much as I used to, because I used to just work hard and send money home, and I still do that, of course. I try and help my family wherever I can. But at the end of the day, I think it's not selfish to prioritize yourself. It is necessary.
Mhm.
I'm not married. I don't have a kid. I have like 2 million, no, 2.5 million nephews back in Africa. So it's like,
You
it's like,
provide for a lot of folks.
yes, so I can't take care of my mom, of everything, and then provide for all my nephews and nieces when I'm not married. I'm 36 years old. I'm not married. I can't live like I have 4 wives back in Africa. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I I try. When there is need, I provide where I can. But I was on another podcast when I went back to Kenya, and I was asked the same question. And I thought this answer was funny, but it has some truths. They asked me, so what happens when your nephew or your niece is out of school, and you're there and you have some money? How do you do it? I'm like, it depends. If that money was meant for me going to Bali, I'll go to Bali. Let her stay home until, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Because you
because I
put in
used
that
to,
work too. You
yeah,
deserve
because
it.
I used to do that a lot. I used to just get everything that I have and give, and
Mhm.
that is also not sustainable.
No, it's not.
It's
It's
not, and
not.
so that's what I was telling you about the mission organizations. Try to have something that is working for them,
Yeah.
something that is
Mhm.
self-sustainable, of which I've really tried. I've given money for businesses before that has not worked.
Mhm. Yeah.
Once, not twice. You
Right.
know what I mean? So, especially after giving that, I felt like I'm buying space, my space. And, you know, I have to also, I don't, first of all, I don't have a lot of money, number one. According to Japanese standards, I'm still poor here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. You gonna send
But
that clip right there to the family. Be like, "Look, I am poor in Japan."
yes, hey family, I'm poor in Japan, please. I am poor here. I'm gonna clip this, man. Don't ask me for money, mom. I love you, but I'm poor.
Oh,
So, like,
man.
yeah, you have to find a balance, and that's a struggle sometimes. But
Yep.
you have to prioritize yourself, because if you don't, you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
So
impressive that you have that mindset now and are able to know that taking care of yourself and being selfish is necessary at times, and to set those
Mm,
boundaries. And so that's super healthy. When you were talking about like creating something that's sustainable, I work in finance, and
mhm,
I've worked with professional athletes. I worked with people with, tremendous wealth. And one of the
mhm.
things I see with professional athletes who come from environments where there is not a lot of resources, they want to pour back and give back.
Yes.
And often it's like so and so called and they need $10,000,
Mm,
and the request to or fulfilling the request of $10,000 is great for that moment, but it doesn't set them up for
mm,
sustainability to create the habits that they need to really thrive with however much money you give them. And
absolutely.
so I think it's so important what you said about how do we create systems and processes and things that if you do something, if you implement some kind of technology, some kind of software, some kind of uh physical thing, how do you one train people how to use that thing, maintain that
Mm,
thing, employ other
mm,
people around that so that it is sustainable. I think that is so crucial no matter
yeah,
where you are and how you
absolutely.
help and give back.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And yeah, before I forget, thank you for the book. I got the book, your book
Oh
from April.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
I'm a very slow reader, but I'm reading it. But she sent me last year after my sister passed away.
Yeah.
It, it was, I think it like she didn't know my sister had passed away at first. Like she sent it, and then I got it like a day after she passed away.
Mm,
I was like, wow, this is a very, very timely book. Like it has arrived at my lowest. It has arrived when I really need it the most. And I'm still in the very beginning, but I must say one thing that really stands out in your book was how you're talking about sharing your trauma, and for people not to view that as you making their traumas less important than what you went through.
right.
And that is one thing I want to echo in this podcast. Like, I'm not sharing this to show people that, hey, what I went through is tougher than you. No, no, no. Even where I come from in Kibera, I know people went through shittier situations than me.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you for pointing that out, because most of the time, once you become vulnerable and you're sharing your story, some people tend to think that you're trying to show them how much you suffered more than them.
Mhm.
It's not a suffering competition. You know
Nope.
what I mean?
Not at
Yes.
all. No. Yeah, I say like, we're not playing trauma Olympics. Like it
Yes,
it
there
it
you
it,
go.
it sucks to go through bad things, and the bad things, like when we we talk about perspective and knowing that okay, what I went through wasn't as bad as somebody else. That's great for building empathy and perspective, but it does no good when you're dealing with those feelings inside your heart and your chest and your mind because it's the worst
Absolutely.
shit you've ever been through. And
Absolutely.
even if it's I dropped my ice cream cone and I'm 2 years old, that's the worst shit I've ever been through, and I feel that as the worst shit I've ever been through. And so
Absolutely.
I love. I'm. Thank you for pointing that out because there are people who like I even mentioned it in the book of there are people who are going to read the first half of my book and say where was the trauma? I didn't see it. And then
Mm,
other people who are gonna say, "Oh my god, how the hell did this person make it through all of this?" And
mm,
so,
mm.
regardless of where you are on that, your personal experiences and your trauma matters, no matter how
Absolutely.
big or how deep or how intense they were. So, thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I hope I'll finish that book in 5 years' time. Yeah.
If you need the audio book, I'll read it to you. It'll be like
That
a
do
bedtime
you have
story.
do you have an audiobook?
Yeah.
Oh, then that will be faster, because I
All
told
right.
you I like
I'm gonna get.
going.
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna get it
Yes.
to you.
Thanks, man. I like going on long walks, that. So
Yes.
I listen to a lot of podcasts now. Yeah, so if I get an audiobook, I'll be like, yo, I was done yesterday. Like, I
All right.
love.
Boom. That's what we're
Yeah.
gonna do. We're gonna make that happen. Then that's what's
Thank
up.
you, man. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
I wanna ask you a big question because you brought her up a couple times. What did your
Mhm.
sister mean to you?
Everything, man. She she was the closest person I was with in the entire family. She was the glue of the family, man. She was the only sibling that wanted us together as one family, to be honest, because we've had our differences and our struggles as a family. I've had my issues with my elder brother. Sorry, I haven't talked to my elder brother now for this is my fifth year, 5 years, almost 6 years, over some stupid nonsense. Let me just put it that way. Uh, I had issues with my younger sister for a long time, the last born. I had problems with my brother that I follow now, like the brother, he comes before me, and my late sister Rose was the only person in the family that used to call me and check on me. Hey, how's Tokyo? Is it cold? Like if I want to send my mom money, I'd send my sister Rose because she knows what to do with it, and
Mm.
she knew she knew me inside out. She knows things about me that other family members don't know. You know, and they don't know that they don't know unless they listen to this podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
So for me, I lost a part of me, and after she passed on, until now, very few things have meaning for me. Like I in life, so nothing excites me anymore. Like
Mm.
I mean, it was last year August, but until now, I'm just in that like fuck this mode. Like I don't give a shit about many things. The other day I just walked out of the house in my pajamas and I got on the train and I went to Tokyo. I just like see the fucking pajamas. What's the big deal about? I don't give a shit. Like, you know, her death was the last thing I expected because she wasn't sick for a very long time. So it's it changed everything. It changed my life. It changed my perspective on what's important in life. And yeah, it wrecked me. I don't think I'll ever recover, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever go back to the same place I was because she used to give it to me the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Real love.
And
Yeah.
yes, yes, real love. If I fuck up, she'd tell me, no, no, don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
She's the reason why I have a little bit of investment back home.
Hmm.
10 years in Japan, I didn't have anything. And then I went home last year in March. That trip, something deep inside me was like, you gotta go home. I'm like, I don't even have enough money because once I go home, I do everything. So I was like, I'm not ready to go home, but eh, you know, if there's one thing people who are listening or watching this podcast, if I have a message for you, is like follow your conscience. It's follow your heart. If your heart is really convicting you to do something, don't look at the finances, don't look at what will people think. Just do it. Fucking do it. We don't have time on this planet, man. And that March trip is the biggest trip I've ever had in my life because it gave me a chance to see her for the last time
Mm. Wow.
and say goodbye the proper way. And we traveled, we took a road trip from Nairobi to my mom's house, like 8 hours, 7 hours away from Nairobi. Came back to Nairobi and we talked. We had a good time together.
Hmm. Mm.
And and if I knew seeing her at the airport was the last time I was gonna seeing her, for the last time I was gonna see her, I wasn't gonna come back to Japan.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
but I'm glad I made that trip, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, I'm just thankful that my head are in my life because once I was in seventh grade, she left school to go work with my mom to feed us. She
Wow.
sacrificed her education
Hmm.
to
She
feed
cared a
us.
lot about you.
She cared a lot about us. She was the second born.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looked at my mom when my dad just left, And she told my mom, "You're struggling a lot. I I don't think I want to go to school anymore. I want to work because we have to eat."
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have to, for her kids, I have to do what I can because their mom sacrificed everything for me. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's beautiful.
So
I'm
yeah.
glad that you had her in your life. I'm glad that she
Mm-hmm.
was such a good presence for you because
Absolutely, man.
those people. We need those
Absolutely.
people. And I'll say like I've felt because I've lost uh a person who people who I felt were keeping me together and making it feel like, the days would be brighter. And then when they passed, I think I shared some of those same feelings of you, like, what the fuck is all this for? Like I don't
Yeah.
care about any of this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And some days those feelings still come. It's been 4.5, 4 years since their passings, and they're the two people over my shoulders,
Okay.
my grandparents. And some days it still feels like, why? I don't care. But through the process of healing, through really acknowledging and honoring your grief process and what your sister meant to you and processing those feelings, I'll say for me, the days where I feel like none of this is worth anything are less and less. And I don't think it completely goes away ever, but I think it does. I think you do start to grow around it and start to live with them in spirit with you. So I'm hoping that for you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Because yeah, I thought I've grieved before. I grieved my dad, but not that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's another story. Yeah, my dad's story is a different one. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, maybe I'll touch on it later on. But I, this grief is different. Like, I had a sharp pain in my chest. Like, since she passed on, I've been feeling some, like, physical pain.
Hmm.
Mind you, I really work out. I try and eat clean and go to the gym. But since she passed out, I don't think I'm even okay health-wise.
Have you
And,
gone to seek treatment around that?
and that's one thing I want to share here. And nobody knows. And I don't think, unless you watch this podcast, so when you'll know. But I went. It will surprise even some people like Adrian because I share everything with her. But I haven't told her this. I haven't told anybody. Reggie, this is the first time I'm opening up. I was in the hospital on Friday, actually, the day before yesterday, and the doctor discovered a tumor. I have a tumor on my chest. It's it's a benign tumor, but the doctor was like, "You gotta watch it very closely." Something I've not told anybody, and I can't even believe that I'm saying this on this podcast.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, since my sister passed on, I don't think I'm back to 100, and I don't really care about things
Hmm.
anymore.
Yeah.
And and I care about very few people. It's just something that I feel like life for me is almost meaningless.
Mm.
Yes. And then I went home, and then my brother was going through a lot of shit that I also tried to help because yeah, he was at the age, he was almost taking his own life when I went home back this December. So it's like shit has been tough. That's why I hold comedy so closely, man.
Yeah.
Because when I see people laughing and smiling around me, it makes me happy. And I just like the process of having a thought and then writing it down and then converting it into something funny, creating something out of nothing. So yeah, I look back in life and I'm like, I'm 36 years old now, and life has not been fair to me, to be honest. Like, since I was a kid,
Hmm.
you do everything by the book, and then nothing really happens your way, and you just wonder, "Oh, what the fuck?" Like those are some of the things that made me even walk away from church, to be honest.
Mm.
You know, um, I can't say that I don't believe in God. That's not true. But my questions to him are very, very many,
Mm-hmm.
and I never get the answers. So
Yeah,
it's life, man.
man.
Mm,
I wish I could hold you right now. This is the one thing about doing virtual podcasts is that I
mm,
feel like in this moment I want to lay hands on you and just squeeze you, like just
mm,
squeeze you and hold you and and hope for brighter days because you definitely deserve it. I can sense your energy and I can sense the joy that is deep inside your heart, and
mm,
how that has been stripped away with the passing of your sister, with so many hard things that you've experienced through your entire life. And I'm deeply,
mm.
deeply sorry for all those things because you don't
Thanks,
deserve them.
thanks, Reggie.
As comedy being a creative art form, um, what does that do to you? How does that bring you, lift you up? When did you start doing comedy? Talk about comedy in your life.
Mm. I grew up in Kibera again. I was surrounded by lots of funny people. In school, I was the class clown. Everybody says that, right? And what when it clicked for me was when a friend of mine, same school, same neighborhood in Kibera, took part in this contest called Top Comic. Like they were looking for the best stand-up comedian in the entire country. And this guy went on the show, and I was laughing at him because I'm like, you are the least funniest person I've ever met. Why are you wasting people's time? And he won it.
Wow. And
He
you're like,
won it.
oh, if he's
I was like,
funny.
oh man, what am I doing? What this guy won? And he was on the national newspapers, radio everywhere. Like he became
Wow.
huge, a big deal, a huge celebrity in Kenya. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, how? I couldn't believe it, man. Because even just having a conversation with him is boring. He's a
Hmm.
boring, but he won it. He wrote and he practiced, and his delivery was just impeccable.
Wow.
And after that, I went and I was like, yo, I respect you, man. I want to go to an open mic. And he was like, so now you respect me? Okay, I'll take you to an open mic. So that's how I started, man. He took me to an open mic in downtown Nairobi. We had a Hilton hotel. They had an open mic, and the first open mic was great, man. I killed it. I wrote these jokes, practiced them, and they were great. And I was like, yes, I think I want to do this for the rest of my life. And then the
Wow.
next show I went and I bombed so hard. For the next like 5, 6 shows, open mics, I just kept on bombing, and I was like, oh man,
Wow.
maybe it's not my thing.
Woo! That's got to
Yes.
be terrifying.
It humbled me. It humbled me. It gave me that humble pie without mayonnaise on top. So yeah, so after that, I just continued, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yes.
amazing. With how long you've been doing comedy and how many shows you do now, would you say there's a percentage that still you come out feeling like you bombed?
Reggie, bombing it's a part of life if you're a comedian.
Mm,
Bombing is there. Like even Dave does bomb.
yeah,
Yes.
true.
Bombing is part of and the thing is that you have to do it for a very long time to a level where if you have a great show, it doesn't take you up.
Mm,
Don't if you bomb, it just destroys you. No, you have to find your voice, and I think that takes, for me, according to me, I started finding my voice like after 5, 6 years, where I have some sort of stability. Until now, nowadays I go to shows. Of course, I love my audience, but I don't care about their responses that much. You
yeah.
know, because whether honestly, I've been having a lot of great shows recently, some bad shows here and there, but they don't phase me anymore because I think I've done the 10,000 hours or whatever they
Yep.
say. I've done it for a very long time that it, like me, bombing is just, oh, okay, maybe I should have changed this, or maybe that crowd was not just feeling it. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I kind of redefined bombing. For me, bombing is how I feel after the show,
Mm. It's
not
about
what.
you, your
Yes,
feeling.
exactly. I'm a little selfish with my performances,
Yeah.
my performance, because sometimes I can go up there and destroy that crowd, like just have an amazing show. But after the show, I don't really feel like good inside, or I don't feel like I had a good show. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the show is pretty average. So to some people, they look and they're like, oh, he's really bombing. But after that, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that felt good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a weird space to be in. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
think that's like you said, true to yourself. True to yourself
Hmm.
and not seeking. I mean, you're seeking external validation because you do want laughs, but at the end
Yes,
of the day,
absolutely.
it is
Hmm.
about what is happening on the inside of you. That's the
Yes.
most important part.
But don't get me wrong, man. The laughter, they make you feel very good.
Oh
You
yeah.
know.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Oh, it's
absolutely.
good. It's good.
Yes.
I want to
Mm.
close it out with a couple more rapid response questions just
Let's go.
to end this out. But here's the
Mm.
first one. With everything that you have going on personally, professionally, I think one of the hardest things for at least me and a lot of people I've asked, one of the hardest things to do is ask for help. Say, I need
Mm.
help. So my question to you, Evans, is what do you need help with right now in whatever regard of life?
That's the most difficult question that I've had in my recent years, eh? Because honestly, because nobody ever asks me for that, except maybe one other person, and I think you know who I'm talking about. Uh, Before I answer that, let me tell you why that is difficult for me to answer. It's because of the environment I live in right now. I live in Japan, and in Japan, the concept of helping each other is almost culturally frowned upon.
Wow.
You don't ask for shit here. You take care of your own shit.
Wow.
You, of course, they are very kind, and if you ask something, they'll oh, you know, if you ask the direction, they'll leave whatever they're doing. Ah, sorry, go this way, go, you know. But here, someone can fall in the middle of the city and people will just be walking around him because they know there is a medical department that's supposed to handle that. And if you know you have a condition, there is a panic button you're supposed to be working with. If you feel like you're gonna have a seizure or something, you gotta press that. And like everybody, you just have to take care. You have to carry your own weight. And me living in Japan has taught me that. Like I suffer a lot here sometimes, man. But I don't ask for help because that is just how Japan has groomed me. To be honest, I'm kind of Japanized, if I can say that, because it's I think it's the samurai spirit. Is the feel of guilt or shame in asking. That's why also the rate of suicide is very large in Japan. I think it's number two after Germany or something like that.
Mm,
They keep on switching places,
mm.
you know, because here is like even during the old times of the samurai, if you feel like you go to war and then you are the only surviving soldier wouldn't come back home. They'd commit what we call harakiri, which is like splitting your stomach into two with a samurai sword, just because you feel like you're letting down others. So that question is difficult, but for me, for now, yeah, it's Reggie. I'm really trying to think. That's a difficult question for me to answer. And let me just say this. I think I need help, uh, first of all, with my mental structure.
Mm.
Yes. And it's very awkward for me to say this again because it is just something Japan does not allow. And also this also calls back to where I was brought up
Yeah.
to ask help for things like your mental being. And it's just something, first of all, I'm still coming into terms with thinking if I really need that type of help because this one thing I'm gonna be honest with you, I struggle with. I struggle with, you know, therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Just let's say just going to therapy is something that I've never thought about and I've talked to people about it, but I don't feel like it will do anything to me, to be honest. That's a struggle, a personal struggle, and that's a question I want to ask you. Please expound more,
Definitely.
if you, yeah, if you do go, and what has it done for you? Because for me, I don't think is it because of my current environment or where I was brought up from, or is it a combination of both? Because for us, it just doesn't make sense to sit there and try and talk to a person and let that person try to make you know some things about yourself. And they have friends and it's working for them. So before you ask this, the next question,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, break that down
A
for
great
me.
question. That's a great question. And to answer your question, yes, I do go to therapy, and I had a lot of the same hesitations about it as you do. And because growing up, it was stigmatized, it was looked down upon, it was looked at as if you're crazy if you go.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like you said, like, is this shit even gonna help? And I
Mm,
think for me, I got to the place where I felt like I was the lowest in my life, and I had exhausted all my other coping mechanisms. I did all
mm,
that stuff that normally helped me get through the things that I was going through, and I was still feeling horrible.
mm,
And I still had a desire to want to feel better. And so
mm,
with that, I was like, well, why not try it? But for me, I think the what was more accepted was grief therapy, because it was harder to talk about the traumas that I had been through and all the other, the violence and the abuse and neglect and things that happened in the neighborhood and all of that stuff. It was harder to talk about that, but it was easier to get into a room and say, "My grandmother just died," and that hurts.
mm,
Because I feel like there is a acceptance and a soft spot in the world for people to grieve their loved one. And so
mm.
grief therapy was my first introduction to therapy. And that
Oh,
was about 4 years ago.
oh, wow.
4 years ago. Like before that, I had been, considering it, thinking about it, but at the end of the day, I was like, nope, that's not for me. But
Mm,
going in 4 years ago to a grief therapist and really having someone who understood how that communication was supposed to go, how to talk me through different ways of thinking. Like my mind, and I say this to this day because of some of the traumas that I've gone through, but I have awareness around it now. My mind goes down paths, and I cannot control where that path ends up no matter how much I try, but I have
mm,
awareness now. So now I can when I start to take a step down that path, I'm like, "Oh, wait, 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 wait. Let me turn back around and get back
mm,
to the beginning and understand which way my mind is trying to take me." And
mm,
sometimes our minds lie to us. A lot of times they do, especially when you've been through hard stuff. Therapy has helped me understand that part and become
mm,
aware of that part so that I can intervene or bring in some of the things that have helped throughout my life and healing journey. So,
mm.
like, it started with grief therapy that then rolled into surrounding myself with other people who are okay with going to therapy. And that was a
Right.
yoga community for me. That was my yoga teacher training actually was so much grief therapy, group grief therapy, because that was
Mm,
hard for me too to even accept the fact that I could sit in a room with somebody else, hear their stories, have them hear mine, and we really heal from hearing each other's stories.
mm,
But
mm.
that accelerated it for me. It
Wow.
accelerated it because I don't have to necessarily be talking to be healing. You could be talking about your experience with your sister, your dad, or your mom, and I'm over here in the corner translating that to how that has impacted me in my life, and then seeing some of the breakthroughs that you've had through, your work. It helps. It helps me too. And
Mm,
and so I got into group therapy and was like, okay, this is I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to feel less alone. I have a community in what I'm
I
going through. Even
see.
though you didn't know my grandmother, you didn't know my mom, you don't know my dad,
Mhm.
but I have a community in knowing that we have some of this shared pain
I see.
and some of these same feelings, right? Just like talking to you right now. That's why I think like I would be on this call for another 5 hours if you wanted to, because there's a sense of shared community there that I think we can bond and connect over. And so
Absolutely.
group therapy did that for me. And then
Mm,
I started to feel better. I started to feel a little bit better. And I was
mhm,
just chasing a little bit better every single time. Every time I go to a therapy session, I'm chasing a little bit better. Every time I think about a new form of therapy, because it's not just necessarily sit on a couch, talk to this stranger, and they take notes and then you leave. Like I've been in places where like you had to get your body into it, right? You got a
mm,
benign tumor in your chest, and like, what if like you're shaking, like I'm shaking a pillow and busting something over the like really getting into your body because a lot of your trauma may be trapped in your body.
mm,
Doing things like that, somatic therapy, somatic release therapy, those
mm,
things are what I feel are more necessary for people who have experienced a lifetime of hard stuff. Or you really got to go past just sitting down and talking, because that can only do so much. And
mm,
so I say all that to say like I've experimented a lot with different forms of healthy therapy, and I've seen the growth in myself, the growth
mm,
in where my mind goes in dark times, and the infrequency, like the less dark times there are because
mm.
of the work that I've been doing. And
Wow.
so if I can ever be of resource, and I'm gonna definitely shoot some resources over to you,
Absolutely.
because
And
I
I love
think
that,
I
man.
think it is definitely worth it. And I'm again, I want to see that joy that I can see inside you. I want that to come out and actually for you to feel that at all times. Well, not at all times, but majority of the time, because it's possible.
I'll appreciate, man. I'll appreciate a lot, man.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Mm,
Uh, two questions.
mm.
What is your biggest fear?
Apart from snakes.
Snakes. Okay.
No, my
Yeah.
big fear is poverty, sorry.
Yeah.
Being poor.
Ooh.
Uh, yeah, I've been there and it doesn't, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not rich, but I'm not where I used to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm scared of not having a roof above my head. I'm scared of not having food in my belly. I'm scared of not being able to afford hospital bills. I'm scared of that a lot because I've been in that situation and I've seen people who are in those situations that have really lost their humanity or their dignity just to survive, just to have a roof on top of their head. And that's my biggest fear. I don't want to go that low ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I,
so
I
that
I share
poverty,
that. I
yeah,
share that.
poverty.
I share
Okay.
that with you, because poverty is a if you've never experienced it, you don't know. But if you have, you understand that it is a very difficult existence. And
Yes.
I talk about in my book, being at being in a race with death while running from poverty. Like
Mm,
so, I never know when that day is gonna come for me. And
mm,
it's come early for a lot of people in my family, which makes me feel like the time is of the essence.
mm, mm.
And at the same time, I don't want to go back to the poverty that I grew up in. And so,
Absolutely, absolutely. And many people say, you know, uh, the rich also cry, but the poor also cry.
right,
You know
cry
what I'm
with
saying?
empty belly. Yeah.
Exactly. They cry with empty belly, so it's a it's a I'd rather cry rich, you know?
Yeah.
Rather
Definitely.
wipe my tears with the $100 bills. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh
So
man. And last
absolutely.
question. Last
Mm.
question. Uh, what are you living for?
Wow, Reggie, these are heavy. These are heavy. I'm living hmm, for making other people happy. I'm living for others. Let me say that. I think that's because I think my purpose in life is comedy. For me, that's what I tell people. Like, if I had all the money that in this life, I'll still do stand up. Like, I love, I've been doing it for 12 years now. And when I started, people were like, it's just another stage. It's going to stop in the next 2 weeks or something. And then I'm still going on and I'll never stop. This is just part of me. And I think I'm living for stage time. I'm living for the faces of people I look at when I'm on stage. Like those moments make me forget every other thing in my life. Like once I'm on stage, my energy is different, my power is different, my feeling is different. I don't care who else is in the room. Like something switches off or switches on about me, and it's almost like I get possessed by another spirit because once I'm on stage, I can never equate that feeling to any other feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had so many other feelings, you know what I
Mm,
mean?
mm, man, that's
Yeah.
big. That's
Oh,
big.
yeah. I live for the smiles. Let me just say I live for the smiles.
Definitely. Definitely.
Mm.
You keep being you and them smiles coming. They're coming your way
Thank
all
you,
the time
man.
in abundance. And
Appreciate.
and I think the biggest and most important smile is the one that you have on your face. And so if you can give yourself that, I hope
Mm.
that it fulfills you.
Thank you very much, man. It means a lot. And yeah, thank you for creating this space for people to really open up. I've not had I've not had this conversation like this. I've never had a conversation like this. Let me just say that it's deep, it's different, it's fun. It has a lot of smiles and cries. It has allowed me to open up the way I've never opened before. Like this, I I, I was I wasn't sure I'll open up that much, to be honest.
Mm, yeah.
But your spirit and your energy is just everything, man. You are a good person. And you are a genuine person, Reggie. It's the first time we are really talking for this long, and I've been hearing so many good things about you from Adrian. And she knows I don't really I don't not like, but I don't open up to people, and I don't talk to people about many challenges that I face. And even coming into this podcast, I wasn't sure of how much I'll share because that's just me.
Yeah.
And as I've said before, in Japan, you don't really, you close you struggle by yourself and until you go take your own life. It's
Mm,
crazy here. That's why this country has a place called the suicide forest, where if you want to finish your life, you just take your car, you drive away, you go leave your car in that parking lot and get a white rope, tie it on your leg, and start walking inside the forest and go take your life wherever you feel comfortable. And then they will use that rope. They'll trace the rope and find your body whenever they will. You know what I mean?
what?
Yes, it is. It
Wow.
is. It's not. It's almost normal here. It's something that happens, and there's actually a suicide forest in Japan.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's it's a place where you have to take care of yourself. You have to be, yeah. Depending on others is not a thing here. That's what I'm trying to
Mm,
say. And
mm.
even opening up on others, people don't open up, and that's why we have that high. I think one of the reasons why we have, apart from overworking culture and all that, I think one of the reasons we have that high rate of suicide is lack of community. And you said something very important about community. You starting therapy and then after that joining a community of people who are able to do that. For me, my community here is a few comedians, of course, I hang out with, and I have a few friends here and there. So this pod has been very, very, it's been more than what I expected. I somehow feel lighter in my heart now. I feel
Good.
lighter. I feel like I have a friend, and I feel like if I have some deep questions, I can slide in your DM and
Absolutely.
bother you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
you
you also,
can. You
yes,
can.
and you
You're
also,
part of my community now, man.
thank you, man. And you also asked what I need help with. Send me money. I'm an African. Give me $1.
Oh, Evans, I love it. How can people listen to you, get in touch with you if they want to?
Okay, yes. So I am on YouTube. I'm on Instagram and on TikTok, but I have my podcast too, man. I just started podcasting. It's
Nice.
not as cool as yours. I talk a lot of nonsense, but it's all, it's called the Evans Musoka Funny Agenda Comedy Podcast, where
Okay.
our agenda is to be funny. So because I sometimes people just want to relax and have a good time. So I talk a lot about my life in Japan and my day-to-day experiences, and sometimes whatever is happening on the news, but the agenda is to be funny. So I try and make everything kind of funny or light. So
Definitely.
yeah, if you're listening to this, please go to Spotify and just type in the Evans Soccer Funny Agenda Comedy Podcast. I'm not yet on Apple. I'm just on Spotify. I just started, but I'm on Spotify and YouTube podcasts. And yeah, I'll look for your masterclass on how to have a big podcast, Reggie, so that I can.
Oh man, I love that. And I hope that people come listen and laugh because you are a funny man.
And I
Evans,
want you on. I want you on. I want you on. Because
hey,
today we've talked
whenever.
we've talked a lot about my story. Now,
Yes.
next time I want you on. I want to talk to you about your story. I want to hear a lot more about you, and uh, you know, yeah, I want to know more about you in also a funny way. You look like you're a funny guy.
I'm sure we can make each other laugh. So we'll
Yeah,
make that
absolutely.
happen.
Let's hear some stories on my podcast soon, man.
Absolutely. Okay, bet. That's a bet. Man, Evans, with everything that you could be doing and all the places you could be, I appreciate you being here with me, embracing vulnerability.
Thank, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for another powerful episode of Vulnerability Muscle. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that resonate with you. If you're enjoying this journey of self discovery and empowerment, there are a few ways you can support the podcast. First, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. If you've been moved by our conversations and the mission of redefining vulnerability, please consider leaving a review. Your feedback not only motivates us, but also helps others discover the podcast. Share your thoughts on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in. And don't forget to spread the word. Follow us on Instagram at Vulnerability Muscle for updates, and you can connect with me personally at Reggie D Ford on all platforms. Visit vulnerabilitymuscle.com for additional resources and upcoming episodes. And remember, embracing vulnerability is strength. Thanks for being a part of the journey. Until next time, stay empowered, stay vulnerable, and keep flexing that vulnerability muscle.